Damon Reeves never planned to become the center of a citywide manhunt, but one night of panic turned a routine traffic stop into a deadly chase that Fairpoint will never forget. The city of Fairpoint settled into a heavy stillness as twilight deepened, the warm air thick with humidity and the faint scent of rain. Street lights buzzed faintly, throwing pale halos over sidewalks slick with the day's heat. In that quiet hour, a black sedan rolled through the neighborhood at an unhurried pace, its dark windows reflecting the last streaks of fading orange sky. Inside sat Damon Reeves, a 28-year-old whose life had been a series of restless moves and small mistakes. He had grown used to second chances, though each one came with a smaller margin for error. Earlier that evening, he had wandered into a convenience store for a bottle of water and a quick snack. He left without incident, but only minutes later, another man entered the same store, brandished a weapon, and emptied the cash drawer. When police reviewed the footage, Damon's similar build and dark clothing drew immediate attention. An alert went out for a black sedan matching his car's description. Damon knew none of the details yet. What he did know was that an old traffic fine had grown into an unresolved warrant, something he had been ignoring for months. When a patrol car appeared in his rearview mirror, its headlights catching the damp shine of his bumper, a knot of dread tightened in his stomach. The officer might only have been on a routine pass, but the thought of a late-night arrest filled him with panic. He tapped the steering wheel nervously, mind racing through the consequences of being stopped. The car behind him slowed as if to make a turn, then stayed in his lane. Damon felt the cold prickle of adrenaline. He told himself to breathe, to keep driving normally, but his right foot pressed harder on the accelerator. The sedan surged forward, engine humming louder against the quiet streets. He turned onto a narrow side road where the houses grew sparser and the streetlights dimmed. For a brief moment, he believed he could slip away unnoticed. A flicker of blue lights broke the darkness behind him. The patrol car had followed, and now the distant wail of a siren pierced the night air. Damon's chest tightened. The warrant, the possibility of jail, and the humiliation of being taken and every fear combined into a single, reckless decision. Instead of pulling over, he gripped the wheel and pushed the car faster, leaving the calm of Fairpoint as evening behind and setting in motion a chase that would spiral far beyond anything he imagined when he first stepped into that convenience store. The first sharp turn came quicker than Damon expected, tires squealing against the asphalt as the sedan shot through a yellow light that turned red the moment he passed beneath it. Behind him, the patrol car's siren rose to a steady scream, a warning that the chase was now official. A dispatcher's voice crackled over the police radio in nearby units, alerting every available officer. Within moments, 2 more patrol cars joined in, their lights slicing through the humid night like flashing beacons. Fairpoint's quiet streets, normally dotted with late-night dog walkers and a few delivery drivers, transformed into a corridor of noise and motion. Damon's heartbeat pounded in rhythm with the engine. He darted down a side street lined with old brick buildings, the echo of his tires bouncing off narrow alley walls. The city's familiar roads seemed foreign at this speed. Trash cans rattled as the wake of his car sent them rolling. An approaching delivery van swerved hard to avoid a collision, its horn blaring in protest. Damon barely registered it. He was focused only on distance, believing that every extra block widened the gap between him and the flashing lights. Officers coordinated over the radio, calling out his direction and speed. They knew the chase could not continue unchecked. One wrong move could cost lives. Without helicopter support, they relied on quick thinking and teamwork. 2 patrol cars attempted a pincer maneuver, sliding into parallel streets to cut him off at the next intersection. Damon sensed the trap and accelerated, the sedan's engine straining as he darted through a gap between a slow-moving bus and a parked truck. Metal scraped as his side mirror clipped the bus, sending sparks across the dark roadway. The neighborhoods thinned as Damon reached the outskirts of downtown. He pushed through a series of blinking lights, narrowly missing a group of cyclists who shouted in alarm as he passed. Rain began to mist the windshield, tiny droplets smearing beneath the wipers. The moisture made the road slicker, every curve more dangerous, but Damon saw the highway entrance sign glowing ahead and felt a flicker of relief. Out there, with wider lanes and fewer turns, he believed speed would finally give him freedom. Behind him, the patrol cars adjusted formation, communicating quietly but urgently. They knew the risk was escalating. Damon, convinced he was moments away from escape, tightened his grip on the wheel and veered toward the on-ramp, unaware that each desperate decision was narrowing his options and pulling him closer to a point of no return. Rain thickened into a steady curtain as Damon merged onto the interstate, the wipers swiping furiously across the windshield. The highway stretched ahead like a slick ribbon of dark glass, reflecting the flashing blue and red lights behind him. He pushed the speedometer past 90 miles per hour, the engine's roar muffled by the pounding of rain on metal. Water pooled in shallow dips of the pavement, and each time his tires hit a slick patch, the sedan shuddered. He gritted his teeth, certain that slowing down would mean capture. Police units fell into a coordinated pattern, staggering their positions to avoid collisions on the wet roadway. Dispatchers relayed updates in clipped tones, tracking Damon's movements as he weaved through sparse late-night traffic. Tractor trailers loomed like steel walls, their brake lights glowing through the rain as he swerved between them. A horn blared when he cut too close to a truck's bumper, the gust of displaced air jolting his car sideways for a breathless second. Still he pressed forward, convinced that pure speed would carry him beyond their reach. Several miles ahead, officers prepared a spike strip across a low stretch of highway where visibility was worst. They had only minutes to position it before Damon arrived. Meanwhile, a state trooper joined the pursuit, his voice calm as he described the plan over the radio. The sedan's tires hissed across puddles, leaving a wake of mist. Damon caught sight of the trooper's headlights closing in from behind and felt a surge of defiance. He gripped the wheel tighter, knuckles pale in the dim glow of the dashboard. The trap came without warning. A thin dark line stretched across the wet pavement, nearly invisible beneath the rain. When Damon's front tires struck it, a sharp thump echoed through the car. In an instant, both tires deflated, rubber shredding as sparks flickered under the fenders. The steering wheel jerked violently, sending the sedan lurching from lane to lane. He fought for control, heart hammering, but the car skated across the slick surface like a skidding stone. Rather than stop, Damon veered toward the nearest exit ramp, unaware that construction crews had closed it for repairs. Fresh gravel and loose barriers offered no traction. The sedan slammed sideways into a temporary barricade, scattering orange cones and chunks of wood. Smoke and dust billowed as the vehicle screeched to a stop. Behind him, police cruisers braked in a fan of flashing lights, engines idling as officers prepared for the next uncertain move. Damon flung the driver's door open before the sedan's engine had even stopped rattling, the acrid smell of burned rubber and dust filling the air. Rain slicked his jacket as he vaulted over the crumpled barrier and sprinted into the darkness beyond the construction site. The sudden silence of the empty industrial zone swallowed the noise of the chase, leaving only the distant hiss of rainfall and the faint hum of police radios behind him. Rows of derelict warehouses loomed ahead, their rusted metal siding streaked with water. Broken windows gapped like watchful eyes as he darted between them, his footsteps splashing through puddles that mirrored the flashing blue lights. He was desperate to escape. Officers advanced cautiously around the wrecked car, weapons holstered but ready, scanning the shadows with high-powered flashlights. They knew the suspect was on foot now, and the maze of abandoned buildings gave him dozens of places to hide. Commands crackled over the radio as they formed a perimeter, dispatchers calling in additional units and a canine team. The area had once been a thriving shipping hub, but was now a landscape of rusted machinery, leaning chain-link fences, and empty loading docks. Every echo made it harder to tell where Damon might be. He ducked behind a stack of dented barrels, chest heaving, ears straining for the sound of pursuit. The storm masked his movements, the steady rain covering the rustle of his clothing. A dim security light flickered overhead, casting quick shadows that danced along the cracked pavement. For a brief moment he considered surrender, imagining the police closing in, handcuffs snapping around his wrists. But fear drove him onward. He slipped through a narrow gap in a fence and found himself in an overgrown lot choked with weeds and forgotten shipping containers. Officers spread out, their flashlights cutting wide arcs through the gloom. A police dog barked in the distance, then quieted. Every minute that passed increased the frustration of the search. By the time dawn approached, the rain had slowed to a mist, and detectives began tracing faint footprints in the mud. The prints led toward a rusted storm drain at the edge of the riverbank. The tunnel yawned open, its metal grate twisted from years of neglect, water rushing beneath it toward the swollen river. When the sun finally broke through the clouds, the perimeter team reported nothing more. Damon Reeves had vanished into the labyrinth of steel and water, leaving only the battered car and a trail of unanswered questions behind. 2 days later, the river carried its own evidence of the night's chaos. A local fisherman steering his small boat along a bend downstream spotted a piece of metal wedged between jagged rocks. The black rectangle glinted in the morning sun, a license plate matching the wrecked sedan abandoned near the construction site. Authorities were notified, and a search team quickly assembled, believing Damon might have used the river as his escape route. Investigators retraced every possible path from the industrial park to the water. The storm drain where the footprints ended became the central focus. Inside, they found scraps of fabric snagged on rusted edges and muddy slide marks leading directly to the fast-moving current. Heavy rainfall from the night of the chase had raised the river's level, turning it into a dangerous torrent. Divers entered the water cautiously, their lights sweeping across the murky depths. For hours, they found nothing, the strong flow making it nearly impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Meanwhile, the convenience store robbery that triggered the alert unraveled in a different direction. Detectives analyzed clearer footage and discovered the robber's height and gait did not match Damon's at all. A separate arrest days later confirmed a completely different suspect, someone with no connection to Damon. The realization cast a shadow over the frantic pursuit, raising questions about how quickly fear and assumptions had escalated an ordinary night into a citywide emergency. A week after the chase, a pair of hikers discovered a body caught in a cluster of driftwood nearly 15 miles downstream. Clothing and personal belongings identified Damon Reeves without doubt. The medical examiner determined that he had drowned within hours of entering the river, swept away by the same rain-swollen current that had hidden him for days. There were no signs of foul play, only the relentless force of water and the weight of a fatal decision. News of the discovery spread through Fairpoint, stirring a mix of sadness and unease. Residents debated whether the pursuit could have ended differently, while others reflected on the split-second choice that had cost a young man his life. What began as a simple traffic concern and a mistaken suspicion ended as a stark reminder of how fear and impulsive actions can turn a minor problem into a tragedy. Damon's story lingered in local memory as a cautionary tale, proof that a single moment of panic can alter everything and that sometimes the most dangerous path is the one chosen in haste.